and I want to welcome everyone. I think that there are going to be a few more people joining us, but for now, I will just let you know that if you want to rewatch or share this with anyone, it's going to be posted on our Play Studio YouTube page. I'm Jennifer Swilling. I'm the curator and director of artistic programs here at the Play Studio, and I can use my new fancy camera to show you my face. I promised I wasn't going to play with it, but I lied. Okay, so first I'm going to say that we recognize that the studio stands on the indigenous territory known as the Lenape, the traditional homelands of the Lenape people. We would like to take a moment to reflect on the role of the Lenape as past, present, and future stewards of the land, and the role of all of us to join in their tradition of respect and caring for the land and each other. Thank you for that. Thanks for being here today, and we hope that everyone who is able to come to see the exhibition can do that. Really great thanks to the William Penn Foundation and the PA Council on the Arts for funding it. Speaking of funding, if you're interested in helping us keep these play conversations free to the public, you're welcome to go on our website and check out our donate button. And I think one of my colleagues, maybe Trinity, will put the link for that in the chat for you. I also hope that you'll think about coming to future play conversations next week. We have Holly Wilson and Ann Adams, other artists from Future of Play. And then if you check out our website, maybe Trinity can put this link in there too. There is a schedule for all the rest of the playing conversations until the end of this year. I'm going to look more people in. Wait, sorry. Okay, I'm going to introduce our guests to you. So Jolie No is a Vietnamese-American designer based in Santa Barbara, California. No is revitalizing the metaphoric potential of the vessel form by utilizing clay 3D printing to create bright cyborgian pottery objects that acknowledge early ceramic traditions while smiling toward the future. That is like my favorite phrase ever in any artist statement, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I'm throwing that there. Working with tools that are digitally forward, she is deeply engaged in exploring the tensions between past and future, growing the synergy between handmade arts and technology. Maintaining a sense of tactility, intimacy, and sensitivity, often achieved in traditional handwork, is paramount to the practice. She lovingly dresses these familiar forms with hand-painted geometric patterns, hazy gradients, fixes, embellishments all over their surface to bring the hand back into the process. This interplay of the machine and the hand results in creation of objects that resist definition. Jolie earned her BFA in ceramics from Rhode Island School of Design and her MFA in ceramic arts from the New York State College of Ceramic at Alfred University. She is represented by Art & Company in New York, where her work is currently in the exhibition Objects USA 2024, co-curated by Jolie Viscardo-Lavoie. Her work has been included in exhibitions around the world and is held in the collections of major museums, including the Museum of Arts and Design in New York, Kristy Museum, Carnegie Museum of Art, and the Everson Museum. Welcome, Jolie. And Kristy Moreno celebrates female friendship, sisterhood, and chosen community by blending elements of SoCal Latinx culture with the sugary aesthetics of late 1990s girl power and a retro-futuristic approach to fashion. She builds worlds in which female protagonists express their individuality, explore the world, and thrive together. Deeply inspired by the diverse voices that emerge from various DIY subcultures, such as punk pioneer Holly Styrene, multidisciplinary artist Margaret Kilgallen, and authors Adrienne Murray Brown and Gloria Gonzalez, her ceramic sculpted characters band together in the face of oppression, chaos, and harm as they echo the ethos of self-sufficiency and empower one another with an eye towards speculative futures. Moreno earned her Associates in Arts, doing two things at once, from Santa Ana College in Santa Ana, California, and a BFA in ceramics from California State University, Chico. Moreno's work has been exhibited nationally and internationally at venues including Museum and Culture Center in Anaheim, Lucy Lacoste Gallery, the Buller Gallery in Dubai, and Think Spacey projects in Los Angeles. Her work has been featured in publications, including Voyage LA, Las Vegas Weekly, and Beautiful Bazaar. Moreno is the recipient of various awards and residencies, including Taunton Fellowship, Wingate Lamar Fellowship, and the Jack Windsor Memorial Scholarship. Moreno recently completed a 2-year residency at Archie Bray and began, which she just finished also, a 3-month residency at Ceramica Suero in Guadalajara, Mexico. Welcome, Kristy. Okay, so now that we've said all that impressive amazingness to these 2 wonderful artists, I'm going to ask the question that I ask of all of our guests, which is, how and why did you make the brave decision to make your land of art? And I'm going to start with Jolie.
So I've been very passionate about making art, like from a very young age. And I don't know if because I've been thinking about this question because I knew I'd have to answer it. I don't know if there was like a specific moment in my life where I was like, yeah, I don't know. I just have always had this like deeper knowing that this is what I wanted to do, and I didn't really want to do like anything else. I don't know. It was like I knew that this would be like this is my like life's work. Um, and just have been like fearlessly pursuing it ever since from like a very young age.
Yeah, fearlessly, that's a good qualifier there. And that's part of why I asked the question with the word brave in it. So I think you're picking up on that a little. Can you talk a little bit about how, in what ways did you feel like you had to be fearless?
Because this path is quite, I don't know, being an artist or pursuing the arts is like quite hard. There's no like clear cut path in which you can like build a career. It's very, I don't know, there's a lot of peaks and valleys, and there's a lot of, I don't know, I feel like you just have to like hang in there sometimes. I don't know if that makes sense. You just have to like stick with it because sometimes it's super fruitful, and sometimes it's just like, oh my God, why am I even trying to do this? But yeah.
And you think of that's a great answer. Can you think of like a specific time that you felt like, okay, I'm just gonna hang in there?
Yes. It was actually quite recently. Like I finished grad school in 2022. And I mean, post-grad is incredibly challenging to begin with, but I don't know, there was just after finishing school, like being in the studio just felt quite hard because I just like lost my community that I had like in school, and it was like working kind of like independently, trying to pursue my like career as an artist without the like safety net of like having an institution.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you, when you were younger, you said you like never really had any doubt this was what you had to do. Did you feel supported by like your school, your family? Like, did you feel like there was a way that you knew the path towards?
Yeah.
Did
My
you know people who
parents
were artists? How did you know this was gonna
I
fit?
didn't really know people who were artists. My parents are like not artists. No one in my family is like creative like in any way really, but they were always like super supportive of me, which is I think maybe like goes against like the stereotype of like immigrant parents also. But they were like super supportive of me pursuing the arts. Um yeah, and I think it's just like their continued support in that made me feel brave and feel like I could pursue this career path.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. How about you, Kristy? How did you how did you make this brave decision?
How did I decide? So I grew up with a lot of people in my family that made art. Um, my mom used to take photographs, and so there was always like remnants of those like frames and things and pictures in the house. And then my father is a metal fabricator. And so he could just like, or he can just get a drawing and then turn that into a metal sculpture, and I would see it come to life all the time. My grandmother and my grandfather, like my grandmother would make clothes like for her whole family. She had 11 kids, so she was just like having to make all this stuff. And my grandfather would carve, or not carve, but like work on gravestones for cemeteries. So I just grew up with like all of these people before me, that just always made things. They never really had a career in it per se, but they more so my father, but so I think I just always like had that in me. And then I decided to just make stuff. Like I always loved to make things. And then I was like, oh, I can actually work on this for a really long time and keep making, whatever I want to do. So I think just having that influence like early on really helped me do, keep making art now.
Does the, and you've chosen, you said you have a lot of influence from growing up in Southern California, and now you're living in New York. How did you make that decision, and like why did you decide to kind of move coast? We were talking earlier about like which coast we live on, and what does that mean?
I started seeing how like people, especially ceramic artists that I followed online, would just kind of like their profiles on their pages would change from like California to Arkansas or whatever. Like I'm like, what is happening here? And then, I was like, oh, this is the life of like a ceramic artist. Like you move around to all these different residencies or locations. And I think I've just been comfortable with the nomadic life for the past few years now that I'm just like, let's just go and see and try it out because I would love to plant myself somewhere at some point, but I don't know where that is. So if I can go somewhere for a few months and try it out, then, and I'm not constrained by a partner or a family or any sort of like, thing stable. I don't know, something that like keeps me tied down. So I'm ready. I'm just like free to roam.
Yeah. Do you think that that helps be like inspire you for your artwork, that you're observing different places, different cultural locations?
Yeah, no, most definitely. I feel like I'm already pulling, inspiration from where I was just in Mexico for a total of like 7 months. And I am like, so much happened in that time that I feel like it's creeping into what it is that's the work is looking like now. So I can't wait, to see what happens in these few months that I'm here and on to like the next thing. So it definitely helps.
Yeah, and I just think it's so interesting. Of course, it just occurred to me that Jolie's from Philly, moved to California, and you're from California to New York, and
Yeah.
that's great. I'm gonna go back to Jolie and ask a question that I didn't prepare you for, which is, I'm sure you guys had this question before. Why did you choose clay as your medium?
Why did I choose clay?
Yeah.
At first I feel like at first I didn't choose clay. When I originally went to or started undergrad at RISD, I went into sculpture. I actually like have not been doing ceramics for like a super long time compared to I know like most people who are doing ceramics have been doing it like their whole life or like I don't know, 10 plus years. I've been doing it for maybe like 5 or 6 now. But I took some time off from school, like after my freshman year, because I had started in sculpture and it didn't really quite fit for me. Um, so I took some time off I had to like get sober and just, I don't know, just like reevaluate what I wanted. And during my time off from school, I was kind of like in between going back to school for ceramics or jewelry and metalsmithing. And I was like, oh, well, I've never really done ceramics, so I should just like try it out first. So I reached out to a ceramic artist who was based in LA and I worked for him for a summer and I like he wasn't like a potter or anything. He was like a sculptor, and I didn't like know that ceramics could be like that, or that you could like have a career like that way, not just like making pottery. Um, I don't know, something about like the workflow of like working in clay also like really clicked for me too. Which is why I like decided to, I don't know, go back to school for it.
Yeah, that's great. Um, and then I think that may tie into another question I have, which is, we talked about that you felt like it was always part of who you were and like what you needed to do, but what is it about making art that helps you or like that is inspirational or that you feel like, why is it that you feel like you need to make art? What are you trying to express or communicate? I love that I just held up really hard questions and I'm surprising you guys with them.
What did you say?
I'm
Sorry.
just surprising you with the hard questions.
I know, I was like, I didn't prepare for this one. I feel like maybe at the beginning I didn't know like the answer to this one as much. And I feel like this uh will tie into like the next question hopefully that you ask of what we think about the future of clay. But when I started 3D printing like ceramics specifically, I feel like that's when I started like gaining more recognition and like attention for my work. And I recognize that there's like not a lot of women of color like in that space, and that I'm like bringing a different voice and like a different flavor to that tool that I don't know, we maybe like associate more with like architects or engineers, or I don't know, there's like a prescribed aesthetic that I feel like my work is breaking out of. And I know that I was like quite hesitant to start 3D printing clay because there weren't a lot of women doing it, and there certainly still aren't a lot of people of color working in that tool. And I recognize like just being present in that space like opens the door for more people who look like me, or just like other people of color or queer folks to like also maybe be more open to working in that way.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Kristy, why clay?
Why clay? Similar to Jolie, I didn't, clay wasn't my thing at first. But if I finally just like, I tried clay once. I had a teacher was very traditional teaching it. I never came back. I didn't come back for another 6 years. I was like, let me go paint, let me go draw, let me go do what I already like to do. And when I stepped back, I found myself that like I was going through a really hard time at home, and I needed to get out of the house, and I needed to go focus on something other than what was happening at home. So I was like, let me go sign up for classes again. And I signed up for ceramics because there was a different professor, and that professor really broke the stereotype of what like I had learned before. Like I had seen contemporary ceramics, I was seeing all these different sculptures, like people who were at the Bray, people who were making work. And so I was really intrigued. I was like, oh, I can bring, my illustrations and my paintings into 3D forms. And basically from then on, so I same like since 2017, I've just been taking clay like more seriously. Like that's when I got back into it. And I was like, oh, this is what I really like to do. So that's how clay happened.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's so interesting that there seems to be some parallels, like, being dedicated to art, having a time that you had to kind of take to reassess, maybe a tough time, both of you ended up finding clay kind of through that, which is interesting because of a lot of things we've been talking about at the Play Studio. Next year, our exhibition in the fall, it's called Play as Care, and it's really about like this gut feeling that many of us have that like working with clay is somehow healing, or that it has like very specific character qualities that help you sort of like work through emotions while you're working with it. Or I hope also that people who are just viewing your artwork also have that kind of extra deep connection to it. So thanks for sharing that. Do you want to answer that question too, Kristy? Like, what is it that you're trying to communicate when you're creating your art?
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to communicate is just to like be able to express yourself the way you want to be and not be, it's kind of being like unapologetic, you know? And that's what I want to show in my sculptures and what I want to show people that they can be, because then I'll get, you know, people see themselves in the characters, people see themselves in the community, in the pieces, and it's like, oh, like I've had a similar moment. So it's just kind of that. It's like, um, it's a lot of, it's mainly like community. It's so big to me, and having that support system, um, and really shining a light on that support system that helped me out so much. And talking back to that last question about, you know, all those hardships, it's like giving them the space and the spotlight to for helping me in those times. So
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so I think we're gonna look at your artworks next, and then I'll ask the future question after we look at the work. So, extra proud of myself for figuring out all these new buttons out. Just saying. Okay, Jolie, do you want to talk us through your pieces in the show?
Sure. So this body of work that is in the show, or the pieces in the show, kind of like belong to a larger body of work that I refer to as like a lantern vessel. And the lantern vessel is sort of this kind of like in between form that I created within this past year before fully venturing into making lighting, because that's been something I've been really interested in, is making like floor lamps and chandeliers. So in my head, these vessels, because I like originally am like a vessel maker, in my head, these vessels are kind of a nod to the idea of lighting. Both like the form and the color are really inspired by Vietnamese silk lanterns. And that's also kind of something new I may be exploring in my work is my Vietnamese heritage. And also this body of work, like kind of like nods to like a lot of the past themes in my work that I've already been exploring, like this idea of like the digital versus like reality and like shuttling the like two objects back and forth in between that. Um, Kind of focusing on like the like humanity and like the intimacy of like working with this material while also working and like pushing that aesthetic into like the digital like aesthetic and working with these tools. Yeah, and if we go to the um maybe the next one after it. Yeah, this one. This is like a kind of, I don't know. I also thought of this exhibition as like kind of like a fun opportunity to like try something new or a new idea that I had been thinking about for a while. This is called a shadow vessel. And the form is like my lantern vessel that I like mirrored and printed two separate forms and kind of like glued them together. I don't know if it was super successful, but I don't know. I like saw this opportunity to like make maybe something a bit more like sculptural, and like less something that's like referring to function. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at the rendering you sent us of this. I should have put that on the slide as well. And I think when you were just saying that about like mirroring it, this does have a kind of lovely extra nod to the process that you're using. Because that's one of the, that's such a, you know, a tool that is accessible to you in the program is to like mirror the form that you build. So, and then the fact that you put like a shiny mirror like surface on it, it's great. I love it. Also, like that you use the opportunity to do something new, which is what I was hoping for. So that's great. This one. Did it go? Yeah, there we go. Uh-oh, what happened? Do you want to, did you want me to go to the next one?
Sure. Oh yeah, and this, the next few pieces are, I think, oh yeah, the next few pieces are the pieces that are in Objects USA right now in New York. And this is another iteration of like the lantern vessel that I made, and this, yeah, it's like similar idea of it's like based off of Vietnamese silk lanterns, and the surface on this I think is a bit different from the other ones, where I'm like maybe like playing around with like the idea of like maybe like digital imagery that we maybe see more online, like hazy gradients from like word art or um yeah.
Word art. Oh yeah, that's great. And you could maybe talk about the jewels that you add, or your
Oh yeah,
like,
my like little the pins or the piercings. Um Those are kind of like those are like added like towards the end. Those aren't printed. I just like add them by hand. And I mean, I when I think about doing the surface of my work, I like think about I don't know, I personify my forms in a way where I feel like I'm like dressing them up. And these like little pins with like the lusters and the drips, I like think of as like jewelry. And I think they cut into the space around the vessel in like an interesting way that like adds like more vibration, which is something that I love about the surface of 3D printed ceramics, like the like repetitive like lines that like build up on top of each other, like create this like vibration across the surface that I find to be compelling.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, they definitely agree. For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, can
And
you
then
talk? Oh, sorry.
what were you saying?
I was gonna say, can you talk a little bit about how you apply the color?
Oh yes, I airbrush a lot of my color right now. Sometimes I'll like hand paint it, and it is all underglaze as well. And I like do like 3 or 4 firings usually just for the glaze, because I do a lot of like stenciling and taping certain areas off, and I want like a really crisp line. Yeah. And the next two images are my first lighting pieces that I made that I'm quite proud of. This floor lamp. Well, I was trying to I've been like thinking about lighting for a while, and I don't know, some people suggested that I just take my vessel form and stick a light bulb in it, which I was not like super into the idea of that. I felt like they needed to be a little bit more separate. And I need to be like a bit more intentional with the form. So I feel quite proud of this, like these first like iterations. I feel like they're quite true to um, like my practice, or I don't know, it doesn't feel like a crazy jump to me. And something I'm doing more is I'm trying to integrate different materials with ceramics as well. So the lampshades are 3D printed plastic. And I wish I had an image of it lit up, because I don't know, it glows in a really like beautiful way and it has like a quality that I like would not be able to like have with like ceramics if it was a ceramic shade.
Yeah, I was actually just gonna ask about the material for the shades, and thank you. And then are the flowers plastic too?
Yes.
I mean, like you said, it looks like your work, but it's also different, which is very cool.
Mhm.
Excellent, thank you.
Mhm.
And now, Kristy, do you want to talk a little bit about your pieces of the show?
Sure. So this wall piece is called I Got Your Back. And essentially it's two characters just kind of like one is guarding the other. She's just staring at the viewer while her friend kind of looks the other way. I was wanting to include a wall piece just because I haven't shown many of these wall pieces other than earlier this year. And I just This is just kind of like an ode to the paintings that I would make, or the paintings that I grew up making, and so it was a great opportunity to like how to like figure out how to translate this onto clay, and yeah, so the back of her jacket reads "Chinga la migra," which is essentially talking about ICE and detention centers, and the earrings are door knocker earrings that are that read Mija and not yours. So they're kind of, I like to hide in all of these like messages that maybe things that I want to tell people or things that I grew up hearing, and yeah, include them all into the wall pieces. And this one is Mija Chula Chingona, which is what the earrings say. This is like the video of the piece of all the sides. And so it's, yeah, it's these three women, you know, in community, holding space for one another, kind of glancing at each other. They have similar outfits, and I was really proud of the way that the earrings came out on this piece, because I've always loved text and including text into my work. And to include that and include words in Spanish into my sculptures is something that I really love to do.
You just signed it right on there, KM.
Say that again?
It's your signature. It says KM.
Oh yeah, I signed the bills. I like to hide my signature into these pieces, not just kind of like write it somewhere random. Like sometimes it's a pin, or sometimes, you know, the bill of the hat is like the perfect spot if like you're looking at it.
As a person who has to, you know, present these exhibitions in the gallery space and also online, I love the fact that it's really complicated to photograph your piece. Like it's a great challenge to have to when something can only really perfectly exist in real life, because like other than the video, there's really no way that you have to take like 10 photos to really get every side and to show it's not just each figure, right? It's like how they integrate with each other, which is also part of the interest of it. So it's good.
Yeah,
A little frustrating, but
yeah, that's just how it goes. I love including all the like as many details as I can in like a really small space, and the videos help. I think I need to be better at that when I'm like sharing my work online sometimes, because I feel like I'll just do, it's the painter slash illustrator part of me where I'm just like, you get this side and that's all you get. And I'm like, no, like when I got into ceramics, I was like, wait, 3 sides? We got to put something on all of the sides. So, yeah, I think I'm just like being stubborn about it. But yeah, same concept. This one is called Key Lime Kiss, and it's a lyric from a song. It's just a simple lyric from a song from a rapper that I really like. Her name is Vel9, and I just wanted them to be sassy. I wanted them to give attitude. I wanted to give them futuristic, like sunglasses, but modern clothing. So you don't really know what time period they're in. It's kind of like a mix of styles. And I just, a lot of my work talks about like the influence of past cultures into the future. So I like to mix in all of those styles into one piece.
yeah. But I love that you, like you said, that you can do this thing that's beyond, you know, a flat surface. It's beyond two-dimensional. 3D art has this capability that you can walk around it and see it from different angles. You just so beautifully engage that, and I think that that kind of reflects Jolie's work too, and that, you know, Jolie's chosen this tool, this 3D printing tool, but has sort of like really taken advantage of all the benefits of it that move it beyond like what you could make without a 3D printer as your tool. So I love that you're both exploring like the boundaries of what is possible,
right,
with what you're doing. Okay, so now I'm going to ask what do you think about the future of clay? Jolie's been going first. Should we make Kristy go first? Then?
Oh, it's
Are
fine.
you
I'll go
ready,
first.
Jolie?
What?
So, future of clay. Future of clay. I think just in general, how we were talking about it already, is like seeing more women of color in the field. We're here to open the doors, like Jolie said, and to show this path, this career path is possible. It's not something that, you know, is it's just possible if you just, you know, if you're still interested and you're trying. So anyways, I think the future is just like making it accessible to people and not gatekeeping certain things. Like, I think that's the beauty of like a community studio, that you're always like around people and learning from different people. And that's how I've gotten to, you know, learn so much these past 5 years. It's just people being open and sharing all this information. So I just see the future of clay being more like diverse and more inclusive. And I don't know, I'm excited to see it.
Great, thank you. Okay, Jolie.
I think I feel like I'm like zooming in maybe more specifically in like the my specific corner of like clay. I feel like I have a lot of hopes and dreams for the future of digital ceramics. And first and foremost, I would love to see these tools, like clay 3D printers specifically, to become more accessible because right now you have to be like in school or like take a workshop just to have access to this equipment. And like I said before, something stemming from that lack of accessibility is like a lack of diverse voices who are creating with this tool. And there's this sort of like prescribed digital aesthetic that I think most people associate with 3D printing ceramics, like clean, like parametric, loopy vessels. That, in my opinion, I feel like they often lack a warmth and intimacy with the material that we're so used to seeing in ceramic work, which is why I understand why most people could be turned off to even trying to work with this tool. And that body of work represents just one of the many workflows that come with work using this tool. And it feels like it is just like centered around like what the printer can do rather than like putting more care into the object itself that the printer is making. I just want to see more humanity pushed into the aesthetics of digital ceramics. And I think a way of doing that is by making the tool more accessible to a diverse group of voices. I would just love to see more women, people of color, queer people utilizing this tool in their practice because right now it's a lot of engineers, architects, designers who often like don't have a relationship with this material at all. Yeah, and that's my hope.
Great, I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I I think it's really important. All of what both of you said is really important. The idea that making the 3D printing specifically more accessible is, I think it's why we got the grant that we got to make our digital production studio. So we wrote a grant to the Knight Foundation, and our basic development team and the rest of the team really focused on the idea that if we have this resource at the Clay Studio, it's going to be more accessible to people in the community. Because right now it really is in spaces. It's like in universities, it's in, like you said, architects' offices. So here it's possible to now take a class, and then we have lots of plans in the future to maybe engage it with our team program or other things that would allow people to do it in maybe like job training and entrepreneurial ideas that people have about it. So all those things are 100%. And it seems like it is happening, which is nice. I still think the Clay Studio is in the forefront, but I'm biased. But being in the forefront means that it's happening and it will continue to expand. So that's good. I think another thing that both of you touch on what Kristy was saying about community support. I really think that collaboration is part of what you're all talking about and what is important to me, which is why I loved being able to work with the 3 other co-curators for Future of Play. But it also is baked in. Sorry, that was a tone fun. It's in the ethos of the ceramics world. Another thing that Kristy said and that Jolie has referred to, that you learn from your colleagues, you find someone else, you work with them, and then you get inspired and you find all these new processes. So I really appreciate that as well. And also what you said, Jolie, about the kind of not letting the tool decide what the piece is going to look like is so important. And every time someone says to me like, oh, we don't need 3D printers, we don't need that thing, I always say like, people were pretty upset when they invented wheels that you could plug in. Right? Like an electric wheel was a revolutionary thing that people like hated when they first came out. So I think we just really have to conceive of this as another tool that you have to put your own artistic voice in, or it's not going to work out well. It's not going to make great art unless you're putting that on the input side. That's great. I bet we have some questions, so I'm going to open it up for our audience. If anyone would like to ask a question, I'm going to see if I can make it so everyone can. Oh, there it is.
How long roughly the?
If you talk loudly, you should be able to hear.
Sorry. A question for both artists, like say for instance one of the pieces in the exhibition, how long did it take you to work on it? For just one of them?
Like from
How long does it take to make a piece?
Like one of them in the exhibition, yeah.
So the vessels, the ones with all the people on there, I think it took me about, I would say like max 2 months to make one. It's building the part that takes the most is like all the details. So from like beginning to end, it's like 2 months for me.
And Kristy, do you throw a vessel form and then carve it, or you hand build it? How do you work?
No, I make them. I start with like I start with a slab and then I coil build the vessel up, so just like a cylinder, and then kind of freehand the people that are going to be on there. Try not to think about it too much, and then close off and keep adding. So I don't throw the vessels. I don't throw them. I just hand build them slowly.
How about you, Jolie?
Well, maybe like it takes me maybe about a day to 3D model them, and then they're quite quick to print. Where I get like maybe at the most it takes like 2 hours to print one of the vessels. But most of the time sync for the work is on the surface. So I think maybe in total it takes like a whole month. But I'm usually working on multiple at a time too. Yeah.
I was in the 3D lab here, and Audrey was printing stuff, and it seemed to me that it was going really fast. And she said that she had slowed them down like all the way, the machines, because we were having a tour and she wanted people to actually be able to see them printing. And it's like, oh, that's the slow mode. That's amazing. So.
Yeah, it's way quicker than you would think.
I have another question for you, but does anyone else in the audience, any Zoom people have questions? You can put it in the chat or take yourself off mute. Oh, we have one. Gio says, I have a question for Jolie. How do you see the digital realm integrating itself more into, quote, fine art spaces and ceramics and other practices going? How is it going? And then one for Kristy, as opposed to illustration and painting, what are some benefits and disadvantages of working with clay? So I guess, Jolie, the first question, like, do you mean, Gio, like how it's accepted into the quote fine art space? Is that?
Yeah, it probably would have been easier to talk, I guess. But yeah, how do you see, because I start a lot of my work digitally and then I try to get that into a physical space.
Mhm.
How do you see those processes going in or being more accepted into the fine arts?
I mean, I do think that I think it's pretty widely accepted in the fine arts already. I actually think it's maybe, I think the holdup is more like in like ceramic space specifically. Just like also like, sorry, like I get it.
Like traditional ceramic.
We love our tradition. Like I get it. But I don't know, like being also kind of like in the design and fine art space and like being like showing in those spaces as well. A lot of people that I have showed alongside like work with like digital tools and like I don't know, a lot of like digital fabrication already. And I feel like no one really like kind of even like blinks at it. But in I feel like ceramics, it's a little bit of a harder sell, which I understand. But
Yeah.
yeah.
That's it's a really good point because in like especially like public sculpture and any of those fields where fabrication has always been separate from the artist,
Mhm.
it's nobody's blinking an eye. Like I happen to know like the head digital production person for Jeff Koons.
Mhm.
Like his work obviously sells for huge amounts of money and it's all made digitally. Like he just is like, I don't know, he makes like a little sketch and then he hands it over to this person I know. And they figure out how to, 3D print or metal fabricate or whatever. So yeah, I think that's a good point, Jolie. That the ceramics people are like, no, we have to use our hands.
Yeah. Yeah. But people are
And you are
becoming
using your hands, so
I am using my hands. I wish I could just like turn the printer on and walk away and it would just do its job. That would be so nice. And then I would understand why you guys would be like upset, but it's not like that. So
Nobody should be upset. Okay, Kristy, how about that question Gio has for you? Do you want him to repeat it?
No, it's yeah. What are some benefits and disadvantages? Benefits and disadvantages.
Wait, I'm just gonna pause you for 1 second because it looks like Kathy is trying to show us a piece.
oh
It
my
looks
God,
like a Jolie piece.
Kathy.
Amazing.
I love
Thank
your
you for sharing
piece,
that.
Jolie.
Oh, it's there.
You.
Nice.
I saw your name in the chat and I was like, that name's so familiar. I feel like she maybe owns some of my work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like I need to upgrade and get one of your new pieces now. They're so beautiful.
Thank you for
Well,
showing
there
it.
are 3 in our show, but just call me.
Oh,
Okay.
you know
Thanks,
where to
Kathy.
find them. You know where to find them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, hello, Gio. That's a really good friend from Las Vegas.
Okay.
Nice to hear your voice. So first disadvantages are like sometimes it doesn't survive. You could work for like I said, 2 months on a piece and you throw it in the kiln and you just like hope that it works out and then the head is blown off for some odd reason and you're like, well, it is what it is. It's a lot of it's very humbling, as they all say. Benefits are, I get to just like play with color in a different way, and translate the drawings and paintings into like a form that's going to last longer than I'm going to be on this earth. It's just a lot of fun to try to layer, all this information and just play with new processes and learn different ways of making the same work that you or like work that you're doing into like a new medium. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
Kathy, do you
both.
want to tell us why that piece spoke to you and why you needed it in your collection?
I went back to R and Co about 3 times and kept looking at it, and it did. The colors, the shape, it just did. And out of all of the pieces that were there, I just kept going back to that one, and it had to come home with me. So
Thank you so
Well,
much.
as a curator and not an artist myself, and someone who loves to have art in my life, we have to applaud Kathy and all the people who buy art because that is what keeps us, going. And thank you for doing that and wanting it in your life. That's great.
And not to leave Kristy out, I did buy your decals the other day.
Oh, yeah.
With Greenwich, at Greenwich House with our group of people that came to see you.
Yeah,
with Fabio and Caroline.
That's good.
Thank
That's
you.
great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, my last quick question is what's next? Kristy, what's next?
What's next? We always get asked this question. I'm like, why? Like, let things just simmer. Let things just like happen. I'm not sure yet. I don't like to plan too far ahead. I'm gonna work through this residency and then see where next year takes me. So it's undecided right now.
Well, okay, fair. Actually, it's fine. Tell us what you're doing now. Yes, maybe that was what that.
Working on some pieces. Just trying to fill up the studio and get things done. And then, I don't know where they're going yet. I'm just kind of building and hoping, like again, like with Kathy, if they just catch someone's eye and they're like, they need to come home and live with me forever, then I'm like, perfect, let's do that. So I'm just building and trying out the space and enjoying the city. So
Great. Thank you. How about you, Jolie? I guess it's like what's happening right now or what's next? Both of those things are maybe the same question.
Well, what's next and what's happening right now is I have my solo show, my second solo show with R and Company coming up at the end of April, which I'm very excited about. I'm getting like a much larger space this time too. So I'm just starting to make the work for that, really. I'm in production mode up until like February, basically. So that's what's up with me right now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and both of you, I think, I know Jolie and pretty sure Kristy will be here for our symposium on December 7th, and that is in person, but also on Zoom. So anyone out there who wants to come here, meet people in person, have some snacks. I don't know why I always talk about food, but I think it's really, I mean, it's something about us coming together as a community. But you can also join us on Zoom if you're not able to. So please mark your calendar for that. And the other planning conversations over the next 2 months are going to be great as well. Thank you so much to Jolie and Kristy for making great art, for making time with us, for us today, and for sharing your artistic visions. And thanks to all the people who tuned in and came in person. So we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kristy, it was so fun to do this with you.
Likewise, I'm glad I got to hear more about your work and share
Yeah.
space.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing everyone in December.
Great. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.